So I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Sherin Mathews. Sherin is a senior data scientist within the office of the CTO for McAfee. In her role, she creates and develops new machine learning models to improve and increase the effectiveness of cybersecurity product. Sherin is a repeated and requested industry speaker on her research papers in area of machine learning, computer vision, AI, and cybersecurity. Prior to joining McAfee, Sherin held research position at Canon Inc. and Intel Corporation. She has a master's degree in electrical and computer engineering focused in signal processing from the State University of New York. She also holds a PhD in machine learning from the University of Delaware. She is also a past recipient of University of Delaware Professional Development Award and received 9th place in the prestigious IEEE GRSS Data Fusion contest. We are very happy to have you, Sherin. I pass the microphone to you.
Thank you for the great introduction. Hi, everyone. Hope all is well. So as a researcher, I get to work on, great stuff, like be it looking at deep fakes, if you have seen technologies like that, and even work on explainable AI. But the talk that I'm going to present today is mainly one of my areas that I'm passionate about. It's on IoT and security. Slides. Okay, to start with, right, as we become more connected, like why am I investing in this area? I mean, you might ask, like coming from topic like machine learning and deep learning, where do I see my next, throttle, or where do I think I should invest more? So this is something I'm personally passionate about, and I feel as we become more connected and reliant on technology, our exposure to cyber criminals will continue to grow. Now, our privacy is compromised in ways previously we never imagined. Now, if you have seen cases of deep fakes, I think I'm not kind of digressing from the topic, but if you have seen deep fakes, it kind of indicates how technology can invade one's privacy. Like they are such high quality falsified images or videos created by using technology, right? So what happens in the case of IoT? What does a world of 50 billion connected devices look like? And how do we, plan to protect ourselves? My plan here is for this 5 minutes or 10 minutes lightning talk is to provide some practical steps that can make our connected life more secure so that we can confidently embrace this evolution. So many companies, as shown in this slide, have tried to estimate the market size, like what would be 2020 market size or be there. So just giving some figures here it's estimated to be 3.4 trillion with 30 billion actual devices and 212 billion possible devices. So this is an estimate taken from a company white papers and press releases, but this kind of aggravates that how this solution or how this problem is important and why solutions are important for this world. Try on to the next slide, please. So as IoT becomes more prevalent, right, it's clear we are experiencing a digital revolution. Many technology has pushed us closer to where we are looking at, say, including big data, cloud computing, machine learning, and even AI. Now, when you talk about smart home devices or even smart business technologies and IoT, many challenges exist. So the slide what primarily talks about is it enumerates what are the different challenges that can occur when presented with IoT. But the one I would specifically focus on is security and privacy. So in security, the most significant or the most arguably unsolvable challenge relates to security, and more specifically, I would say cybersecurity, as it pertains to information technology. What you're trying to do here is it's not just the data connection that's vulnerable, but everything connected to the actual hardware. For example, imagine a smart manufacturing unit equipped with IoT sensors. Say a property manager or a maintenance associate can make use of a mobile device to check the device status and read incoming data and send commands. But what happens if you have a foreign attacker where to seize control the machine using some kind of vulnerability or some kind of weak security measure to gain access? So theoretically, we can use that connection as a jumping point off to access other mission critical systems. And suddenly you have a situation where you have a dangerous yet unknown persons having full control of your system and can do anything with the digital systems. They could literally shut down the machines and maybe cause them to overheat or overload or even steal sensitive data. So back to square one. A hacker can actually scoop up the transmitted data from the IoT sensors to look for sensitive details, including information that can be used to blackmail or even extract the business. Talking about security, and then we move on to privacy. So most online connections are secure using some kind of encryption. What this means is the data is locked behind a software key and cannot be decrypted or translated. without having, say, a proper authorization. Now, some of the most basic forms of encryption are easy to break, but they can still take a long time, slowing down any nefarious purposes. Ultimately, it means that the encrypted data is always exponentially more exposed, and hence needs to be more secure than raw unprotected data. Now, despite this fact, many companies are actively looking to ways to avoid using encryption. It is especially bad when you are trying to save any kind of sensitive digital information like user accounts or passwords and even personal details in some kind of plain text files. IoT platforms can collect, transmit, and use this data and thereby make it completely vulnerable. So the biggest offenders for this would be the devices and the platforms that are created and maintained by relatively, say, inexperienced developers. So I think these were the main challenges which I would like to focus on. And down to the next slide, and then I'll kind of talk about like an overview of understanding the IoT risks. So now we can see like IoT capabilities, once you have deployed in the real world, they can cause more real world damage to life and limb. So imagine a failure of a telematic device who is directing your autonomous vehicle, or you have a firmware operating life-sustaining medical device or the electric grid. Now, while the traditional liability law is very well established, it is less clear on the role that the software or the cloud-based infrastructure may have in failures that results to reliability. Now, when you talk about the business side, with the IoT, a bulky system that would have previously been caused a headache for, say, an in-house user can now ground an entire fleet of cars or trucks. A failure at a cloud provider system, which is hosting, say, IoT service, can actually cause regional or even global disruptions. So that's like kind of talking about why security and privacy is important and how to understand this risk. Let's step on to the next slide. So this kind of talks about what are the ways in which you can hack, an IoT system. The security risks the security risks that come with IoT deployments are often, fodder for headlines about spamming refrigerators or even talking about hackable cars. Now, there are different ways you can do it. One is using denial of services. This can be making use of, limited size of the processing power, which makes the system extremely sensitive. Or you can have a man-in-the-middle kind of attack where you have, say, improperly deployed or configured systems, which mainly allows a pathway for the attacker to intercept the traffic between the systems. Next slide. Another form of example of the way they can hack is using application-based attacks or even device spoofing. Application-based attacks are mainly targeting the weaknesses within the firmware. And you're looking at any kind of application within your systems and trying to find what are the security weaknesses within that and try to address those or try to attack those. Then you can have another kind of attack, which is called device spoofing, wherein you have an improper implementation of any kind of digital signing technologies. So this is like different categories or subcategories in which you can hack an IoT. Now, talking about the solutions, let's go on to the next slide. So before we talk about this, is just giving an idea of how the IoT technology stack looks like. So you have a device, you have an embedded software, you have a communication between them. It might be hosted on a cloud platform, and what kind of applications do drive in. And then talking about the solution. So I think the main aspects. Just more on the next slide, maybe. Yeah. So the main aspects when you're talking about minimizing the risks, I think the one I focused mainly were on security and privacy. Now, while cybersecurity will never be indeed solved, using like the appropriate security measures can actually go a long way. What does that mean is employing data encryption, strong authorization, and even access controls, even by using the advanced AI monitoring tools, can help you to regulate the security. Another way, if you're looking at tackling privacy, the only way to genuinely secure your data and protect the privacy is to erase it from existence. Because that is not possible, the next best thing is to employ some kind of data encryption methods to minimize some kind of access points and gateways where the data is being sent or accessed. So overall, this would kind of give you an overview of what are the different steps that you can do to minimize the risk. You can actually secure your cloud infrastructure. You can look at design principles to improve your system. You can secure your device connections, users, and leverage standard practice. So these are some of, I would say, blocks or the building blocks that you can make use of when you're trying to minimize the risks with IoT. Next slide. So that's like an overview of why the area of IoT and security is important, and why, what can be done in terms of minimizing the risks in the area. Feel free to reach out if you have further questions on this, or even want to talk about anything on deep fake or even explainable AI. Thank you.